Hello everybody, so I have done a review on this timer remote. I'll drop a link in the description below, but this video is to show you more of how to use it and what the different functions do. So the reason we would use this is if we want to take something like a night exposure, we could press this button here and this will release the shutter on our camera. The reason we would use a shutter release rather than the shutter on the camera is because when we press the shutter on the camera, we don't want to make the camera move. Now it's not just a shutter release, it's also a timer, so this means we can set up time lapses. We can literally just plug this into our camera, put the settings in we need, and then we can just leave it to take the pictures, and once it's finished we'll come back to it, and then we've got everything we need. Now it plugs into the camera really easy. You just put the right extension lead on, which you can find online when you order it, and then it just plugs straight into the camera, and from there you're just ready to go. Now we're going to look at the settings we need to set the camera to. I usually have the shutter shooting at continuous high, but for this we're going to need it set to single frame. If you have it at continuous high, when the shutter release opens, it will just keep taking pictures for the length of the exposure. And we're going to have a look at the settings we're going to need. We're going to need to set it onto manual mode, and we're going to want the shutter speed set to bulb. Now I actually sometimes shoot with the shutter speed I like, and if you set the length of the exposure on the controller to 0, it will shoot at your camera settings, not the controller settings. Now with the focus settings, I would recommend leave it in manual. It will actually work whether you use continuous or single server, but so unless the subject's moving, I'd recommend shooting in manual, just so that the autofocus isn't readjusting your pictures and chucking it out of focus. Now let's look at the controller itself. I've got two AAA batteries in the back, so it should all be working fine. And to turn it on, I can press any of these buttons and see what buttons we've got. Here is the lock or the light background button. We've got the time stop start button. We've got the set button. We've got the arrow keys around the outside, the shutter release button, and the hold button. So if I press the shutter release down, that's going to open the camera, and then if I slide up the hold, that will keep the camera taking pictures or whatever settings it's on. Now that beeping for me is quite annoying, so we're going to have a look at how to turn that off. Okay, so let's look at the lock or light button here. If we press this once, it will turn the background light on for 6 seconds. So this should turn off in a couple of seconds now, there we go. But if you press the light button, every time you press an arrow key, it will reset the background light. Okay, if we hold down the light button, it will put it into lock mode. This L will appear, and this will stop it from this will stop you from adjusting any of the settings, but you can still use the shutter release button. We don't need that on for now. So if we look along the top, we can see we've got delay, long, interval, N, and the little sound icon here. So at the moment, this little bar here is set below the delay. So this is going to be how long it is before the picture is taken. So if I want the picture to be taken in an hour's time, I can go into this setting, press set, and then I can change this up to 1 hour here. And then if I want it taken an hour and a half, I can put this up to 30. I'll put it up to, I don't want to do that because it's going to take forever. And then the last one here is going to be the seconds. But when I take pictures, I actually usually want them to be taken straight away. So I'm going to take this back down to the beginning. If we go over to the next bar, we keep pressing that arrow across, we've now entered into the long section. This is going to be the length of the exposure. So you can have anything up to a 99, basically a 100 hour exposure. I don't know what you'd use that for, but you've got the option there if you want it. Again, I actually usually use the camera to set the exposure settings. But if you've got the camera set to bulb, this will actually take the length of the exposure you would like. If I keep going across again, we can come into the interval section. Now this is going to be the amount of time between the pictures taken. So if you're doing a time lapse and you want a picture taken every 30 seconds, you can just come over into this section here. This is going to be the number of seconds, and we can put this up to 30. Don't know why I keep choosing high numbers. There we go, so we're going to have a picture taken every 30 seconds now. And then if we go into the N, this is the number of frames you can take. So if we push this down, This will mean that this will keep taking pictures until either the battery runs out or we stop it. And if we press down again, we can see that 399 is the maximum amount of pictures we can take without just leaving it unlimited. So if we're shooting at 24 frames a second, around 400 frames will be about 16 seconds. And then if we go into the last part, this is how to turn the sound on and off. If we just press up here, we've now got the sound off, and I'm going to leave it like that because I don't like it beeping at me. Okay, so once we're all happy with what we've done, we just press the set button and we're ready to go. Now we've got the camera set, we can just set up the timer, stop button, we press that. If we look here, we can see it says timer active. This lets us know that the camera is running and it will take pictures when the shutter release goes. And then when the camera takes the picture, release will come up down here and we know the picture has now been taken. It's important to make sure you don't have timer active or release active when you plug it into your camera. So that's all the information you need to set up the camera and the remote. From here it's down to you what your personal preferences are. Now I hope you found this video useful and I hope to see you in the next one.